I'll try to share it. And try to put in a big screen.
Okay, I believe everyone right now can see the slides, right?
Can you see them now? Give me some balls if you can see them.
Can you still hear me? Because I'm keeping getting this message that Zoom stopped unexpectedly. I cannot explain what's going on.
Dr. Volkis, are you still here? Dr. Volkis, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's because Zoom already kicked me out and auto returned me back. So that's why I said we may have some technical troubles. And as a result of it, as soon as you stop seeing me or stop hearing me, you need to unmute yourself and let me know. That's because I will be looking into my slides when I will be talking to you, and I may not see immediately that something happened. So with this said, let's go to the first slide. And the goal today is to let you know a little bit about what's going on in my research lab, because when you come to the summer program, you will spend significant chunk of time in my lab, as well as in the lab of some of my collaborators. You already have seen a couple of lab overviews, so my one is the next. And in very general, I can say that my lab works on the edge of two fields of chemistry. One has a name phytochemistry, and it's actually chemistry of all chemical compounds that can be derived from plants or algae or roots or medical herbs or even any kind of living organisms. And indeed, it deals with those compounds in several ways. One is how do you derive them from the raw material? Second, indeed, when you derive them as a mixture. So how do you separate those mixtures and get to isolate individual compounds, and then to analyze those compounds to exactly understand what the compound is and what its chemical configuration is and what its concentration is, and then try to find to those derived chemicals different applications. And indeed, because it comes from plant materials, you may think that major applications should be in the food, and you will be surprised that many plants that have a lot of health benefits, a lot of technical applications, are not very tasty to consume. And that prompts us as a chemist to find different ways how can we benefit from them. So that's a phytochemistry. On the other hand, polymers. Polymers are materials, the other name for it is plastics. It's not completely accurate name because only part of the polymers actually look like a plastics that you are all seeing in your everyday life and that surround you. And if you now look at your table, I believe 70% of things will be made of different plastics, but it goes beyond only plastics. And generally, polymers are long molecules that, like a pieces of Lego, consisted of identical chemical fragments that are clicked by chemical bonds to each other like pieces of this Lego. And sometimes polymers are consisted only one type of those little fragments, sometimes from several, and they go in particular orders, and all that change properties of polymers. But I want to little bit wider your perception of what polymer is. So will not be secret for you that if I will hold, for example, this mouse, it's clear it is made of plastic, and your pen typically is made of plastic, and your keyboard typically is made of plastic, and even frame of your screen and a lot of parts inside of your screen are made of plastics. But how many of you have heard, for example, about material that has a name starch? It's a part of a lot of things that we eat, right? So does it look like a plastic, like a typical plastic? No. And it's actually polymer that the pieces that you click together them are sugars. And that's why we call it polysaccharides. And there are a lot of materials in nature which are different kinds of polysaccharide. The other one you also use in school every day, and it's a paper that basically made of cellulose, that is another type of polysaccharide. And I'm pretty sure you heard about gelatin. Use gelatin in cooking, right? Does it look like a plastic? Not really. And it is actually biopolymer, and there are lot of such polymers which are polymers, but they do not look like a plastic. So anything that is long molecules that have identical fragments repeating in a structure will be called polymer. Now, what polymer science does, it study how to synthesize, how to prepare in a lab those materials. What are their properties and how their chemical structure is correlated with their mechanical properties? Because think about it this way. You know there are some plastics and they are solid. Do you know that a lot of glues, which are sticky liquids, very viscosic liquids, are also polymers? And there are polymers which are completely liquid. And there are polymers that looks like a films. And how many of you know the rubber balls that you will throw these balls against the wall and it will jump all around the room? This is another type of plastics that has a name, rubbers or elastomeric polymers. And yeah, you think about this rubber ball, but think that electronics in each boil when you take it to go to the trips is protected by such type of polymers. And many of them are also derived from the nature. And original rubbers was a natural compound derived from particular trees. And only when humanity understood how much of rubber they need to survive versus how many trees like that are existed and how long it takes to grow each tree, try to think as a chemist and isolate this natural compound and then see how can we mimic this compound in the lab. And indeed, it will not be completely same compound, but it will be something with very similar properties. So properties versus structure in polymer science is something very important. And then indeed, anything that you synthesize, you also must be able to analyze to prove that what you synthesize is what you designed in your head to synthesize. And indeed, for everything you do, you need to find applications in our real life and technology in different type of industries. So that's a polymer science. And now ask yourself question, what is the connection between phytochemistry, which is totally about what is in the plants and how do we get it out, how do we use it, and plastics? And on a first glance, you will not find a lot of similarities. And yet my lab actually works everywhere where I can bring those two fields of science to the edge and find something where polymers and natural products are working in a synergy. And I guess you paid attention to one extra thing on this first slide. I took those three definitions of phytochemistry, polymers, and polymer science, and I asked artificial intelligence to try to generate images that bring those definitions together. And what happened when we use AI? Who knows what happens when we ask AI to generate any image which is related to natural science or STEAM disciplines? And the correct answer will be AI starts tripping. Means it tries to do the right thing, but it is not yet trained enough to do this thing right. So today, my entire presentation will be illustrated by AI images, and each one of them have a lot of stuff that is for the reason, and also a lot of stuff which is incorrect. And one assignment. I did not plan today to do a lot of discussions like we used to do in the past, where you go to waiting rooms and you discuss things in a group. Today it will be different. Everyone will work for his own and will just follow what I talk about and look at the pictures that illustrate and try to find similarities and differences between what I'm talking about and what the image presents to you. And your goal and that is in addition to official post-webinar assignment that you have. You need to, let's say, this is slide number 1, right? And you can see here on the bottom of the screen there are slide numbers. So also this presentation is available already on the web page, so you can always come back and you can always look at that. So you can say slide 1, left image, middle image, right image. Some slides have only one image, but you need to write which image you're talking about and then explain in as many details as possible what is wrong with this image. And sometimes one image may have several things which are wrong. You can always snap copy this image and add some drawing if this is what is needed to explain yourself on what is wrong on the image. And your goal will be to find as many trippings of AI as possible. And in addition to what your homework is, at the end of this homework, you will create the list of those mistakes made by not well-trained AI. So I hope now you kind of understand what will be assignment behind the stage that we'll be running today. And with this, I will ask to go to the next slide, please. Ms. Grimminu, can we get the next slide, please?
We're already there.
I don't see it on the screen.
Guys, do you see it on the screen, the next slide?
Yeah.
Slide
Yes.
number 2? Yes?
Okay, so I will then go and look at my presentation instead of your presentation because something is really wrong with my Zoom recently. So let's talk first about polymers. And let's try, not only it's hard to bring together phytochemistry and polymers, it's not easy to make a correlation between polymers and agriculture. And on a first glance, you may say, I cannot see where polymers are applied in agriculture. In fact, there are many, many applications of polymers. And let's start from fertilizers. So everybody knows that plants need some food in order to survive. And with food, they get together with water from the soil. And sometimes the soil doesn't have enough minerals that plants need. So we fulfill this need by adding fertilizers. And fertilizers can be organic or inorganic, made man, and typically they are all very well water soluble. And what happens, you will apply fertilizer, and then rain will come, and rain will wash out of your plants all this fertilizer and distribute it widely in the earth, and even wash some of that out to close by rivers and ponds and lakes. So, how can we keep fertilizers longer around the plant? And here is one of ways where polymers are helping. There is a big group of polymers that have a name altogether, biodegradable polymers. And where you may know the use of biodegradable polymers already is in medicine. Recall that maybe 10 years ago, if you get sick and doctor prescribes you antibiotics, typically it will be 4 or 5 times a day, and you have to take these antibiotics at even intervals of time, even if it is night, and it's of course very much inconvenience. So today you will get prescribed antibiotics. You may go in between one pill a day to one pill a week. There are a lot of medications which are one pill a week. Why? Because they take these antibiotics and they mix it together with polymer which is biodegradable. What does it mean biodegradable? As soon as it gets into slightly acidic water, And all the water that is inside the soil is slightly acidic. And if you know, our gut also has HCl, hydrochloric acid inside. So as soon as we get to the water with just a very little bit of acid, they start the reaction that has a name decomposition. This long polymeric chain breaks down, and the products of this reaction are water and carbon dioxide. And you know, in our nature, we have plenty of water and plenty of carbon dioxide. They are not toxic for us in those amounts. So when such polymer decompose, it doesn't make any harm to the nature or to the human body. But what can we achieve? While your fertilizers is inside of polymer, it cannot be dissolved in water. So if rain comes, it will not wash it out. But as polymers slowly decompose, little portions of these fertilizers release into soil locally all the time, and then plant immediately consumes it. And that allows us to apply fertilizers, not as often as if it were just regular fertilizers. So that's one example of how polymers help. There is another field, and it is polymers that can absorb and retain large amount of water. And this absorption of water happens because of what is called hydrogen bonds. Well, the polymer has hydroxy groups and water has hydroxy groups, and they do not react chemically to each other, but have a very strong attraction to each other. And that helps this water not to evaporate when the temperature is high and sun is out, and not to disappear when we have all kind of drones and strong winds. And that way they also are getting slowly released into the soil and then plant immediately consumed. So that's another type of plastics, and that's another example how it is used in agriculture. Now, back to biodegradable polymers. Another way how biodegradable polymers are used is films. And they are called mulch films because their function is same like mulch. Why do we apply mulch even in your backyard? Why do we put mulch under each plant? There are several reasons why we do it. Number one, it prevents weeds from growing. And on any surface which is mulched, there will be less weeds than if you would leave it unmulched. And that's one reason. There is the other reason. It also helps to retain moisture in the soil. And also it works like a greenhouse. It helps soil to stay warmer for a longer time, doesn't matter what the weather is outside. So it starts in agriculture from using regular polymers like polyethylene and put those plastic films with a little holes just enough to put the plant in and cover with such film the fields. But then, by the end of the season, farmers have to remove all this film and dispose all this film. And because typically polymers like that do not decompose in the soil for hundreds of years, they are also environmental harm for our earth. So if you have a biodegradable version, typically in biodegradable polymers, you can control how fast or slow it decomposes with acidic water. And those polymers will slowly decompose the way that at the beginning they will serve their function of keeping it warm, retaining water, preventing weeds. But by the end of the season, where it's no longer matter for the plant and it's time to actually harvest your plant, they will just slowly decompose and disappear. And for the next season, you will use the new plastics. So that's another polymers in agriculture. Now, same like it prevents water, same like it preserves for a longer time fertilizers. They also can protect the seeds. When you put seeds in the soil, typically less than half of seeds that you put will actually survive and germinate and later on give you harvest. And that increases the cost for farmers because they need to put way more seeds than what they expect to harvest at the end. So one of ways to help seeds to preserve is also to coat seeds by biodegradable plastics. And those covering may also include some nutrients that the seed needs to survive and some pesticides that will protect the seed from the pests. And also it can have some hormones which are growth stimulants. And it causes the seed once germinated to grow much taller, much faster, produce more of the harvest, which is also increase the revenue of the farmers at the end. And finally, same like we can preserve and keep longer fertilizers, we can do same for pesticides and herbicides, because those pesticides and herbicides are normally also very much water soluble, and you will apply them, and after each rain you will have to reapply them. Otherwise, they will get washed out, and the pest will attack your plants. So by putting it in biodegradable polymers, we can prolong how long those pesticides and herbicides stay with the plants. And finally, there are some other types of polymers. They are not a biodegradable polymer. They are just polymer with particular structure that has lot of pores and water holding capacity. And those have a name soil conditioner. Those are added to soil and mixed with soil to improve the physical property of the soil. And it is about structure, it is about porosity, it's about water retaining capability and many other factors, and also pH of the soil that you will learn on summer and one of workshop is one of very important parameters for successful growth. So that's an example of how polymers are related to agriculture. And I'm going to the next slide now. So next slide, please. Everyone can see the next slide. And it is phytochemistry in agriculture. So it's much easier to correlate agriculture and phytochemistry because phytochemistry is chemistry of compound derived from plants, and agriculture is a field that is responsible, among others, for growing those plants. So, how phytochemistry helps to agriculture? So, first thing first, it deals with creating plant extracts. And plant extracts have many different applications aside of their health benefits. So we can extract from many plants phytochemicals such as alkaloids, such as antioxidants, and in particularly flavonoids, such as terpenes and terpenoids. And all those compounds have also pest repelling effect. So it's not a secret that synthetic pesticides are very toxic. If you Google pictures of applying the pesticides, you will see that people who is doing that process have a full hazmat suit, means hazardous materials suits that protecting them. And even after that, many at the end of their careers have all kinds of cancers and all kinds of other chronic sickness related to being exposed to pesticides for a long time. So if we can replace those synthetic pesticides by natural compounds derived from the plant, that opens two different horizons. One is for organic agriculture, because one of the greatest problem of organic agriculture today is that they cannot use anything synthetic. They cannot use synthetic fertilizers, and they cannot use synthetic pesticides and herbicides. And as a result, their harvest is much more sensitive to all the pests around, and their loss of harvest is much more often as comparing to traditional agriculture. So once we can give to organic growers alternative to synthetic pesticides and fertilizers and herbicides that will increase their production and their revenue. So that's one of use of phytochemicals, because phytochemistry is responsible for finding such compounds, extracting such compounds, and preparation of formulations that can be used as a pesticide. Now, the other thing that extract can help is growth promotion. Certain phytochemicals are natural growth promotion. Natural plant hormones is their name, so that's another application. Now, same like we can use it as a pesticide for pest management, we can also use it as a herbicide. What is herbicides? That's a compound that don't kill your targeted plants that you try to grow, but kill all kind of small weeds around it selectively. And indeed, synthetic ones are very, very toxic. So it is known, and we will take you with summer to plants, to farms where you can see it, where particular plants that other plants cannot grow near those plants in a radius of at least 1 meter around. And that's because those plants have natural weed management compounds that basically kill everything around. And if we can extract and determine those compounds and prepare some applications from them, that also will promote significantly organic horticulture. Now, there are other phytochemicals that help improve the soil quality. And typically, how that is done, there are type of greens that have a name cover crops. And that's the crops that farmer would grow over winter, when it is not a season to grow anything else that can be harvested. So farmer would fill the fields by those cover crops, and those are crops with a very special metabolism. And as a part of their metabolic activities, they produce metabolites, means chemical compounds, that help improve soil quality and help improve soil health and provide some needed organic nutrients to the soil. And then there are several applications which are not related to growing the harvest, but to preserve it after we harvest it. And one of ways to do it is to introduce natural antioxidants and antimicrobial compounds to the harvested plants, because those will kill bacteria, those will kill free radicals, and those are factors that determine what will be what is called shelf life time of your harvest. How long harvest can be kept from the time it was cut from the plant and to the time where supermarket have already to remove it from the shelves because it goes bad. So that's another application. And the last one, there are compounds which are natural antibiotics, and there are compounds that helps to plant to stand against drought and against increased salinity or again extreme heat, extreme temperature during particular seasons. And that are compounds which help to plant actually all together to manage the stress. And we call that property stress tolerance. So that also are phytochemicals, and there are different ways to introduce those phytochemicals. You can derive them from the plant and then spray it or add it to the soil, or you can just grow those plants along with your targeted plants and let them decompose by the end of the season, and then they end up in the soil and they enrich the soil. So that's about phytochemistry in agriculture. And we are now going to the next slide, and I can immediately put the statement that on the next slide there is no pictures which are generated by AI. All the pictures here are either taken from the stock photos or pictures taken by us, and they illustrate particular plants that we work with in our lab. And if I can define in a very general, how do we choose which plant to work with and which plant not to work with? So my lab focus on the plants that have three different types of phytochemicals. One is antioxidants, and many of you are familiar with antioxidants. While you may not know all of them by classes and types, you all know that we eat fruits and vegetables of color because those colors actually represent antioxidants in those compounds, and that's our ways as a human to introduce some of those natural antioxidants into our body, and everybody knows that they have a lot of health benefits. So one of our target is work with plants which are rich by antioxidants. Now, what makes a difference between typical plant on a supermarket shelves that is rich by antioxidant? And if you think about it, I believe you will be thinking about blueberries and blackberries and strawberries and raspberries. Those are typically high antioxidants plants. The plants that we work with exceeds in between 15 to 50 times the average antioxidant content in all those known plants. And what are those plants? One has the name Aronia, in particularly Aronia michurini. The other one is a huskap, and then mountain ash. Many of you who have roots in Eastern Europe probably are very familiar with this plant. It is more rare here in United States, and that's why here it is considered a specialty crop, kind of rare crop with special properties. Then mulberries, golden berries, and elderberries. About elderberries, I believe you have heard because there are a lot of them in the vitamin shops. And the reason for it, along with antioxidants, they have compounds which are natural antibiotics. And that's why the syrup made out of elderberries sometimes serve the function to people who are sensitive to regular antibiotics. So that's a type of berries and fruits that we work with. Now, essential oils. You probably know essential oils. You may not know that this is essential oil, but you know that many fruits and many vegetables and many foods that we cook. One of things that we always judge those products by is aroma, the smell. And the smell is attributed to essential oils, and typically each essential oil has either its own taste or its own smell, and that's how you can recognize it in many plants. Yet essential oils, their real function is they're very strong bacteria killers. And that is why typical health benefits of essential oils is anti-inflammation and antibacterial properties, and that's why do we actually use it. And again, if you think about essential oils, the first thing that should come to you is citrus. If you take any citrus and you smash it, you will see even on their skin some drops of oil. And this oil will give the smell of citrus to it. And it's a citron and lemon oils. And that's how you know them. But many of them are much more potent than those well known oils. And the plants that are rich by them have a name holy basil, hops. You probably know hops by their use in preparation of beer, but hops actually have a huge medication effect because they are high content of essential oils. And then, of course, you have heard about hemp. And by the way, hemp is known by CBG. And CBG is not essential oil. CBG actually belongs to class of alkaloids. Yet along with it, hemp has a lot of essential oils. And many of essential oils, they serve as a catalyst for the CBG and THS functions in this plant. When we work with lemongrass, juvenile ginger, and juvenile because comparing to regular ginger that you find on the shelves of the supermarket, juvenile ginger has much higher content of both essential oils and antioxidants. And then we work with some types of algae. And out of them, fucus, Profilera, Gracilarid, and Spirulina are those algae that we work again. Why? Because they have a very special type of essential oils and they have a super high content of it. And as a result, there are a lot of algae that now we are starting to use in our food. And along with all those essential oils, algae are also very, very rich by iodine, and especially for people who have thyroid problems that's a natural medicine for it. Now, terpenes. How essential oils and terpenes are different? They are actually very, very similar. And they both are from the same family. And their structures chemically are very, very similar, with just one difference. Terpenes only have carbons and hydrogens in their structure, while essential oils have exactly same structure plus some groups that have oxygen in it. And that's what makes a difference between essential oils and terpenes. Both of them are very similar, and all of those algae and all of those herbs have both of them. Berries have mostly antioxidants and less of essential oils and terpenes. And from there, we will go to the next slide, where we will talk a little bit more about those three groups of phytochemicals that we work with. So let's start from antioxidants. There are many, many different antioxidants available. Generally, they can be derived into two big groups. One is soluble in water and alcohol. The others are soluble in oil, and we call them hydrophilic. Hydra is from water, and lipophilic. Lipo is a fat. And fat is very non-polar, so all the non-polar antioxidants are fat soluble. In our body, we need to have both of them because we have two mechanisms how everything that we eat is transported to our organs. Part of it works through the blood, and that can only dissolve because blood itself is water-based solution. So it can only dissolve what is soluble in water. While fats, and especially liver, is the one that cannot function without having fat-soluble antioxidants. So fat is a vehicle to transform non-polar antioxidants, and indeed, because fat is non-polar, it cannot transport any polar antioxidants. So carotenoids and tannins are examples of non-polar antioxidants, while anthocyanins, flavonoids, and polyphenols are examples of hydrophilic or water-soluble antioxidants. And those are basically object of our interest in my group in antioxidants. Now, essential oils. I mentioned several plants, so I want to give you a couple of examples. Holy basil, or other name for it, tulsi, is a holy plant in Indian herbal medicine. And any Indian family try to have their own family grown holy basil plant, and when this plant for any reason dies, it's a big tragedy for entire family because a lot of their both religious and medical habits come from use of holy basil, and they typically will make either tincture or tea out of it. It has some important essential oils. Inguinol. I told you already that each essential oil will have either particular taste or particular smell. So inguinol smell like a clove, and indeed there is also inguinol in clove itself, and that's what is responsible for this smell. And because we all know what clove is, but very little of us know what a holy basil is, so the easiest way to say it's a clove-like aroma. And indeed, because of those essential oils, it has antiseptic and anti-inflammatory property. Cineol is also known as eucalyptol. How many of you have heard about eucalyptus oil? Anytime we get sick and we get bad throat, that's one of things that our grandparents used to breathe on to kind of get a cure. So that compound also present in a very high concentration in a holy basil, and it smells like a camphor. So indeed, in a camphor there is also a little bit of this compound. And as I told, it helps with the throat and overall respiratory tract of our body. Now there is also extra gold, and it is like anise. It smells like anise out of what you know, and it's antimicrobial compound, very, very strong antimicrobial compound. The other one I told you, we are growing juvenile ginger, and we work with juvenile ginger. So the most known essential oil that ginger has indeed has a name, ginger oil. And it's a huge anti-inflammatory compound, but because it also has a lot of double bonds and a lot of OH group, it also has effect of being antioxidant and essential oil at the same time. Now there is another one, and it's fun. So ginger is a name of this compound that we know. Its Latin breed name is Zingiber officinale. So Zingiber gives a name to another important essential oil in this compound, zingiberine. And it has a very spicy, like, you know, that you have any product, any food which is overpowered by ginger, it has pretty strong spice, strong kick on you. And it is because of this essential oil, and it has a very strong anti-inflammatory properties. Then the next one is sugar oil, which is another example like a ginger oil of something which is antioxidant and essential oil at the same time. And there is a bisabolene, and it's antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory one. Now, as I told you, terpenes are similar to essential oil, but have also but doesn't have oxygen in their structure. Many of terpenes in our body and same in plants, they act as a catalyst and they catalyze the work of other phytochemicals, the work of antioxidants, the work of essential oils, and the work of some other phytochemicals. What is kind of hard about terpenes? Typically, their boiling point, the temperature in which they evaporate and disappear from your sample, is much lower as comparing to essential oils. And when you do the processes of phytochemical extractions, it's much harder and much more tricky to keep those compounds in extracts and prevent them from evaporating. So from here, I would like to go to several examples how all those plant materials are combined with polymers in some of projects in my lab. And with that, we will go to the next slide. And I will state that on that slide also there is no AI generated pictures. So one of ways how we bring phytochemistry and polymer science together has a name, resin extractions of antioxidants for medical supplements. Aronia, for example, and I mentioned that berry is one of the highest by content of antioxidants known in the world. One of antioxidants it has in a super high amount is tannins. And how do you know what tannins is? Every one of you ever tried to have a black tea. And if you prepare black tea, like very, very strong tea with a deep brown color, and you don't sweeten it, probably when you drink it, you can think with aftertaste that stays on your tongue for a long time. So now imagine this same taste, but about 100 times stronger. That's what aronia wool tastes like. Result of it, it has tons of benefits for us, but it is very, very hard to create such food-related applications from it that will be palatable and that consumer will readily buy and eat. The other way to introduce it to our body is in a form that doesn't have any taste, means to create any kind of powder out of it that can be put in a pill. And as you know, all pills taste like what? They all taste like plastic. And that's because they all are coated by particular plastics that dissolve in our gut very, very fast and release what is inside. But at that point, we no longer feel the taste. How can we achieve it? We need first to take the plant and do any kind of extract, means to take the plant, to take the solvent, stir it for a long time together up until those chemicals will go from the solid plant into solution inside of your solvent. But then, how can we just take out of the solvent antioxidants? So this is where polymers help us. The resins are polymeric materials that number one has very particular type and size of pores, helping to the process that has a name adsorption, kind of physical attachment of particular compounds from the solution to the surface of those resins. And second, we have particular, what we call functional group, particular bonds, particular atoms that also attract and interact strongly with compounds of our interest. In this case, it's antioxidants. So those polymer resins go into the process in which we prepare extract from the plant. We mix it with the resins, and that's what you can see here on the first photograph. And deep purple color is a color of antioxidant named anthocyanin in aronia berries, and anything else that you know in your life which is colored this way or little bit deep blue is due to presence of anthocyanins. This is how you can take any berry or any fruit and examine it just visually and say, oh, this one will have what I need, anthocyanin. And it has a lot of applications. Aside of health benefits, it is used in food industry. It's a natural colorant. It also has a different color and different acidity and can be used as a natural pH indicator, telling us how acidic is particular solution without bringing other compounds that may be toxic for us. Because of its antioxidant properties, it can protect plants. It can attract particular pollinators. It can attract and can repel some herbivores and some pests. It can protect plant from environmental stresses such as drought or over raining seasons and things like that. It also has a photovoltaic process. It is compound which is charged, and that is why it can use as a electrolyte in all kind of cells. And think about natural batteries that are not toxic for human body that can operate, for example, pacemakers. So anthocyanins can be used there. And indeed, because of plenty of different health benefits, it can also be used as a medical supplement. But for all those purposes, we must get those anthocyanins from the fruit, from the extract of fruit, into powder form. And this is where we do this resin extraction. So when you see this red color, means anthocyanins right now are in an extract. And you can see on the bottom some darker materials, that's the resins. And what you see here on the pictures is microscope pictures of those resins, so you can see there are different types of them, and they are different by what kind of pores they have, what kinds of granules do we have, what kinds of overall surface they have. And indeed, they are also different by colors, representing different particular functional groups on them that attracts those antioxidants. Now what happens next? We filter this solution after process of sorption. And now you can see the solids on our filter are colored by these antioxidants, means they got absorbed to the resin. what we do next, we take this resin that right now only has antioxidants. It does not have anymore any other components of the plant extract. And now we put it into a different solution with a different acidity that cause those antioxidants to separate from the resin and go back to solution, but now not solution that has the entire extract, but solution that only has those antioxidants. And if you now filter it and you evaporate the solvent, you end up having the powder, which is a mixture of all those antioxidants. And we examine different resins in our lab, and we try to figure out which resins and under which conditions will get out of natural plant extract as much antioxidants as possible. So that's one of examples of how we bring together polymers, which is resin, and plant extract that we use to extract only antioxidants out of it to produce products that have all the applications listed here. I will show you another examples. Remember I told you, and we go to the next slide right now, I told you that many of phytochemicals derived from plant can be used for pest control. And indeed, many of them are essential oils. So this example shows you the holy basil that I mentioned on one of previous slide, and also another one that you know very well, argan tree, argan oil. You know that this oil helps us to grow and straighten our hair. And that's why a lot of products like shampoo and conditioners are made with argan oils, but not only those products. So this argan oil can also be used for pest control, and essential oils that we derive from holy basil can also be used for pest control. So in this project, what we do, we examine different plants for how much essential oils do they have and what are components of those essential oils. And then we try them as a pesticide. So what experiment we do? There are different types of plants. Here on this picture, you see something when you know strawberries, right? What you do not know that not only human are those who like strawberries. There is a pest that has a name Japanese beetle. And that's a picture of this Japanese beetle. This is how it looks like. There are different types of them. Some of them have brown top and some of them have black top, but all of them like to eat the leaves of strawberry. And if at the earlier stage of ripening the leaves were eaten, together with it, lot of nutrients for the berries will be gone, and then berries will never get ripen. And many times, Japanese beetles come as a big waves. They suddenly come to particular area, and if farmers don't pay attention on it, in a couple of days, they can eat entire future harvest of berries and not only berries. So strawberry is one of examples. Our area where you are coming for a summer experience is known by growing strawberries, and as a result of it, every June we have some places near us, nearby, that have a strawberry festivals. So I can give you example. For example, in 2012, this world famous strawberry festival was cancelled because just 2 weeks before the festival, a huge wave of Japanese beetles came, and most of farmers here in our area are organic farmers, so they cannot use traditional pesticides. And in 2 weeks, the entire harvest of strawberry disappeared. So indeed, if we can give the farmers natural product that can repel those pests, that's a very big deal. So the experiments that we do to compare different essential oils and examine who is more and who is less effective is based on a situation where certain amount of those strawberry leaves are placed in special chambers. And those chambers on the top are covered by camera, but little bit special camera. It's like a photo camera, but it is green sensitive. It means it can take a picture of the list, but it also can calculate immediately what surface of this picture is green colored. And indeed, in our camera, the only green thing is the leaves of these strawberries. And we can take a picture at the very beginning and then have a control that have never been sprayed by any of our extracts. And then we can have another control that is only sprayed by solvent that we use to prepare extracts of essential oils. And then we can take several with different concentration of essential oils, which are derived from holy basil and from different kinds of argan oil. And then we can take pictures, for example, every day or every 2 days or every hour or every week. It depends on what type of pest we examine and what type of leaves we examine. And every picture, it will calculate what percentage of those leaves have been eaten. And that way we can not only get the visual picture that you can see on the slide, the bottom line of the pictures is a regional leaf that was placed to the camera and to the chamber. And then each chamber were 10 Japanese beetles placed and exactly same amount of either extract or just control, which is no extract at all, or just a solvent, and some others where same amount of extract was sprayed, and you can compare it with a picture taken after a week. And you can see that some leaves are eaten more than others, and there are some that have not been eaten at all. And that's one of factors that we use to examine effectiveness of our sprays. The other one, we count those Japanese beetles, how many of them are dead and how many of them are still alive by the end of these experiments. And that's another big process that we do. And you will ask me now a question, where polymers are here. It's clear where extracts are. Here is where it is. All those extracts are extremely water soluble. And even those which are fat soluble, if you get strong rain, it will just physically wash it out. So if you just spray anything by those extracts, that will be up until the first rain. So what we do, we mix some polymers into those extracts. And we spray it and then it dries off on the surface of the leaves. And it's like extract which is coated by very, very tiny film of those polymers. And those polymers are biodegradable, so they decompose slow. And as they decompose, they keep releasing more and more and more of essential oils, and that prolongs the action of our sprays. So that type of project. And from there, I will go to some other examples of what we do with our extracts. And we go to the next slide, and that will be example of what we do just from extract without interruption of polymers. And later on the next slide, I will show you how polymers get connected to that. So first, let's talk just about extracts. We said that those extracts naturally have color from anthocyanin, for example. They have a very high concentrations of antioxidants, and they have a very high concentration of essential oils with plenty of benefits to our body. Now, what else they have that I did not mention is a lot of minerals. Naturally, because plants absorb a lot of minerals together with water from the soil. And in particularly aronia, for example, along with sodium and potassium and calcium, has some unique things. It has magnesium that helps people to calm down. And it has some rare elements. Zinc, for example, helps us to fight viruses. And there is also manganese, which is a rare element that helps us to retain red blood cells and some other minerals. So they also are very rich of minerals. Yet they have a taste that is hard to mask, and it's a taste of tannins. So when we were thinking what kind of food-related applications can be developed from such plants, we were thinking about Powerade drinks. And if I say Powerade drinks, I believe the first thing that will come to your mind will be Gatorade. Everyone knows Gatorade, and everyone thinks Gatorade is healthy because it's a Powerade. You take it before going to gym or going to the ride, right? And there is even organic versions of Gatorade. What they fix is, what they claim is all organic. There are some other types of similar one, and like a big different other type of Powerade drinks are those that claim some antioxidant infusions in it. Yet typically those antioxidants infusion are synthetic antioxidants, and it's not really antioxidants, it's actually vitamin C and vitamin D. Not really antioxidants that I have mentioned to you. So I brought here for your example 3 drinks that we all know with their nutrition facts, their label, what we call. And if you look, none of them contain any fruits. All of them contain tremendous amount of sugars, and basically all the calories that you can see here comes from the sugar. Average bottle of Gatorade contains 8 tablespoons of sugar. Just measure it at home and think how much it is. Yet it doesn't have fruits, it doesn't claim any other minerals other than artificially added sodium and potassium. All the carbohydrates that come from sugars, and because it's all colored and it has particular smell and taste, but it doesn't have any natural compounds in it. So all of that are synthetic. Synthetic colorants, synthetic compounds that gives it taste and smell, and indeed it is not really healthy. And even organic version of it still has tons of sugars and still doesn't claim anything other than sodium and even not much of potassium. The most organic version, the most healthy version is a bio tea, and it's claimed to be sugar-free. And you will see that it contains aspartame because it is sweetened by Splenda. And that's how you can see the 10 gram of erythritol in it. And other than that, it only claims sodium, potassium, and indeed again colorants and compounds of taste and smell. So how we engineered to replace it? We took the juice of aronia berries. You cannot use the pure juice for different reasons, which one day maybe we'll explain you when we will have a phytochemistry workshop. But in fact, you can only use part of the content of the bottle as a drink, as a juice, and the rest you add water. Now you need to add potassium and sodium because while aronia has a lot of minerals that I mentioned to you, it doesn't have enough potassium and sodium to claim it as a Powerade drink. So what we do, we take what is called organic minerals. Organic mineral drop are natural stones which are found in nature that you can get from nature that was washed with water to wash out those minerals. And then because it's natural minerals and water and nothing else, so it's totally organic and it's just concentrated organic wash out of those compounds. And we add that to claim it as a Powerade drink. We use stevia to sweeten it. Stevia is a plant. An organic grown stevia will produce for you organic stevia drops, and that's how you can sweeten it. The anthocyanin, which is naturally present in aronia, will give you the color and will give you aroma and will be responsible for taste. And if you want like a big line of the product, so you can add some additional taste by using extract of organic teas, extracts of organic berries. And that's what we did. And that's how we got now patented Powerade drink. And here are some examples of how we flavored those drinks. We have a drink that made purely from aronia. We have a drink which is aronia and organic freeze-dried powder of raspberries. We have mint organic tea added to aronia juice instead of water, strawberry powder, and what we tried to do when we decided how much of each component to add to the bottle, we want one bottle, one average 12-ounce bottle, to have a daily need of all the minerals, microelements, and antioxidants that human body needs. So you just drink one bottle of it per day, and you no longer need not the vitamins, not any other natural additives. You get everything from one bottle. And here is example of some other extracts that we use. People very, very like when we flavor it with Earl Grey organic tea, because that also adds the caffeine that we all need on the morning. We have one with a chamomile, and chamomile is known for calming effect and anti-inflammatory effect, fig power effect. Figs have naturally a lot of minerals, and there is another one that has a name yerba mate. That's also plant that is like natural source of minerals. This plant has increased ability to suck minerals from the soil. And that was our first line of products. And once we patented it, we started thinking, what else can we do with it? And this is where polymers came, because we now made a step from having organic drinks to having organic gummies, that by their nutritional value, two gummies are identical to one bottle of drink. And I will tell you a little bit about those gummies, little bit how polymers come in. To make it consistency of gummy, you have to use dextrins and gelatins, and both of them are natural polymers. And that's how, again, polymers come to us to help us reach the texture what we want to our new product. We are now thinking about some other products. And one of them that we are working is to take the bottles of those drink and try to add water-soluble proteins from organic plants and make it like we have a protein shakes, make it protein Powerade drink. Why that is because a lot of people who try to grow muscles when they will go to gym, they will have to consume two types of drinks. They will need the Powerade drink to keep them from losing water and to keep mineral content while they are exercising. And they will also have any protein shake that's to help the muscles to grow. So if we can bring both of those in one bottle, people probably will be very willing to consume such drink for purpose of gym and training. So that's a new product that we are working on right now. And when you will come to the summer experience, one of opportunities that you will have is to come up with your own new product basing on those Powerade drinks and shadow one day my graduate student and together try to prepare this product. And that is why when you will open your homework for after this webinar, one of questions there will be basing on what I told you about Powerade drink. Try to propose some other products that when you come on summer, you will be able to prepare. And that's why I want you to pay attention on it. And going from there to gummies, first thing first, it's a very interesting history. How did we came to the idea to make gummies? And it was actually given us by Department of Defense. One of other projects in my lab that I just didn't choose to talk about today is working with Navy and produce something for Navy. And when Navy came to visit in the lab, indeed we have shown them not only results of what they found for us, but also all other projects which are running in the lab, and they got very excited about this drink. But what they say, hey, we deploy soldiers. to oversee, and we cannot deploy together with solvents that amount of bottles of drink. Can you take what is in a bottle and concentrate it? And their idea was like we have a pouches of mustard, of ketchup, of mayo. Create a pouch that will have the entire content of the bottle, which soldier can squeeze to just regular bottle of water, shake it, and get immediately your Powerade drink. And we just didn't find yet in our school the capability to produce those pouches. That's why we didn't get to pouch, but we say what other products can be preserved for a long time, will be lightweight, small by volume, so it's easy to deploy together with the soldiers, and will have exactly same nutrients and same amount, and that's how we came to idea to create the gummies. And gummies, basically, you take the bottle, you concentrate it, you evaporate water out of there. You concentrate it to a very, very small volume, and then you add polymers that gives it a texture of the gummies, which are typically a mixture of dextrins and gelatins. And we also flavor it in a very different ways, and that's how we get our gummies. And because the addition of those polymers also adds something fat-like, non-polar, into your formulation that allows us to incorporate some ingredients that we were not able at all to incorporate in a drink. And that's because they are not water soluble. One of them is CBG, very known product that many people now are going after it. So we can incorporate it into gummy because it has those polymers, but we cannot incorporate it into bottle. And also some of vitamins, which are fat-soluble vitamins, such as vitamin D, such as vitamin A. And that's what we were able to incorporate into gummies. And that resumes what I had to tell you for today. Here at the end, I just see some pictures taken in my lab. Those are examples of drink as students that were here last year before you have prepared to show on all kind of shows to showcase applications of the fruit. And on the right side, you see examples of all those vitamin gummies.
Mr. Volkis, you haven't asked me to move from slide to slide from slide 8. So where we are now?
I'm now on the last slide.
Okay.
Wow. I'm sorry for that. I thought maybe you are following me. And I got too excited talking about project and I completely forgot about changing the
Don't
slide.
see like little slides, some balls when I project it. So I can
But
only
all the slides are available on the website, so you can come back and you can review those slides and correlate it with what I talk about. So the picture in the middle shows you something which was 3D printed. My lab also has a 3D printers. And by the way, the material in the printer is also plastic and polymer. And to choose correct one, which is approved by FDA to use with the food, is another kind of shade of polymer science that we use. But the molds for making those gummies are shown you 3D printed in the middle. And if you look very well, you can see here the profile of the hawk. Hawk is a mascot of our university, and we call those gummies hawk gummies, and they have our mascot in it. So with that, I'm done for today. I gave you two challenges. One is to develop products, and it's on slide 11, that bring idea of what kind of product that has all the components of the bottle of the drink, but is not just a bottle of the drink. Propose your ideas of what can be prepared, and I will let our graduate students to review everything that you will answer for that question and pick maybe 2, 3 best ideas. When you will come, you will get a chance to prepare it in our labs and in our industrial kitchen. Your second challenge was to review those slides which are illustrated by artificial intelligence pictures and list as many as possible things which are wrong on those pictures and where AI is tripping. Any questions right now, I will be happy to answer. And at that point, we can stop sharing slides and open the microphones for every one of you. If you have questions, just unmute yourself and go ahead.
It's
I
good to
don't see.
have some questions.
Maybe I have overwhelmed you by the information, but if in the future you get questions, you also have my email, right? Please feel free to send me email and ask everything. I think that recording also can stop at that point.